And welcome back to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. We've been talking this hour with author Robert Weiss, author of the book Out of the Doghouse, a step-by-step relationship saving guide for men caught cheating. So, Robert, have you seen the show? I just heard about it recently. I saw a few episodes on Netflix, Frankie and Grace.
I have seen some Frankie and Grace.
What do you think of that show? Is that something that's...
I think it's a great vehicle for a couple old gals to get work. That's what I think.
Does cheating mean the relationship is 100% over?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
In fact, it's one of the reasons I wrote this book. I think, in fact, I will tell you that even in cases of really profound and extensive cheating, the woman who finds out about this, in my experience, rarely in the beginning is looking to leave. She's looking to figure out what is the license plate on that truck that just hit me. You know, she's thinking, I trusted this person. I thought everything was fine. I thought our world. Now her whole world has been knocked aside. Right. And she has to figure out which way is up, which way is down. Who are you really? What have we really had that was meaningful? What have? Because part of what you need to understand, and I think you do, but your audience useful, we learn as therapists, women think holistically, much more so than men.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're more focused as guys on the thing in front of us and the thing in front of that and getting this solved and getting the thing after that. But women are looking at the big picture. So when you cheat on a woman, she's thinking things like, what about our family? What about our kids? What about our home? What about our religious life? She's not just thinking about something you did to her. She's thinking about something that's happened to her whole life. And guys aren't really thinking about that.
Right.
And they don't look at it that way, which makes it much easier to cheat.
Right, because men compartmentalize much easier than women.
We are built to be much more readily able to cheat than women, because we are, as men, more able to become sexually aroused by images and by flirtation and not feel a need to be connected to that person to be sexual. Healthy women tend to lean into sexuality through an emotional connection. So a healthy woman will look for, does he care about me? Does he like me? Is he a nice person? Will we get along? And that is a part of her arousal. So she expects, as she would, because she's not a man, that we might have some feelings toward that person who we went and had sex with, who was a stranger. We have feelings about her that led us to do this thing, when the reality is, we probably weren't thinking about her at all, and it was really just some decision in the moment, and we just hope it never comes up again. But it was fun for the moment. And she's thinking, when she finds out, this is my whole life. Therein lies the difference.
Yeah. So for the man who's like cheated, and he's afraid that if his wife finds out, like that's going to be the end of their marriage. It may, but there's also a good possibility.
I really wish he thought about that before he cheated, I'm just saying, or while. It's interesting to me that it only comes up, it's like, I'm going to rob a bank because I really need some money, and then you rob the bank and you think, oh, gosh, I could get arrested. You do think about that before you rob the bank. Why don't you think about that before you go cheat? Just a thought.
Right.
Anyway, please continue.
And so for the man who's, let's say, even thinking about cheating, and how would they bring up this conversation? And maybe, again, it might not be cheating with an actual person. It could be,
I've done this. I'm glad to talk about it. I'm in a 16-year marriage.
Oh, yeah.
About 6 years ago, I started, in my professional life, I met a young social worker, and we started having these fascinating conversations and going for walks, and and I was being looked up to as a mentor, and I was just feeling so warm and fuzzy. And, and by the way, I have to say that, and this is in the book too, sometimes men will start down the road of an unfaithful relationship before they're even aware that they're in it, because they like a little bit of the flirtation feels good, and the companionship feels good, and getting the attention, and they don't really realize that they're heading down a slippery slope that's going to lead. I mean, they like the feeling, but they're not quite picturing there's going to be a point in the situation where they're not going to be able to say no, or where they're going to get to a point where all they want to say is yes, because it just feels so good. I went home and I said, honey, we need to have a conversation. I am feeling attracted to someone else. I am feeling like I want to be sexual with someone else. I explained the situation, and I watched my spouse of 6 years fall apart in front of me, to the point where the dog came over, was worried about the fight. The dog's, what's the matter? So when your dog is worried, But I'll tell you what, when I saw the face of the person that I love in that kind of pain and I hadn't even cheated. I just had an emotional feeling about someone else and a desire to cheat. It really brought back so many of the reasons why we were together, what I loved about why I didn't want to do this. And I didn't want to face this hurt, this wall of anger and pain after. It wasn't like it was going to be different after. Because I said it before, we moved on, we worked through, we talked about, we dealt with.
Right.
And I actually got a lot more respect and admiration for having been willing to tell the truth in the beginning, even though it was painful, than I ever would have gotten had I just gone ahead and done what I wanted to do, and it had been found out later.
Right.
So I've practiced what I preach.
Right. No, that's wonderful. And I've had similar conversations with my wife as well. And it's when you can really stay present and have the uncomfortable conversations, that's actually where both people grow the most.
That's intimacy. That's how we grow. People wander around and say, oh, what is intimacy? Is flowers? Is it romance? Is intimacy going away for a weekend? Intimacy is telling your truth and being unafraid of your partner's response because you trust them enough to know that they will listen, hear it out, and you will work through it.
Right. Yeah.
That's
absolutely.
intimacy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, this book, I noticed, it's kind of sort of a workbook, and you've done as I was kind of joking when I introduced you.
You were joking.
Yeah, but I wasn't. Sex Addiction 101 and then Sex Addiction 101, the workbook. Why do you need a workbook?
I'm actually working on a workbook for Out of the Doghouse.
Oh, you are? But it's a little, but I noticed there are some kind of fill-in-the-blank stuff in it as well.
I want to give the guys a chance to do some reflection.
Okay.
And what I write about in the book is not fun.
Yeah.
And I tell the guys, you really screwed this up. And I don't even know if you're going to be able to fix this, but this is what you'll need to do if you want to. And by the way, if you don't like what I'm saying, throw the book out. But it's not going to make it easier to work out with her. So,
but why a workbook companion?
Because I think there are places because in the work we do in therapy, we often ask people to do a little journaling. We ask people to do writing on specific things like, how they chose to get into it, or how they knew they were going to have the affair, when they knew, or when they made I want people to be more aware of their decision making and how they made it and how they looked at it before. So I want them to think about and write about, well, how did you look at monogamy when you became committed to your partner? How did you look at monogamy? What were you thinking about monogamy when you chose to have the affair or have the sex with the other person? That takes some writing and some thought. So workbooks are not about practicing cheating. They're about practicing self-reflection and growing. As I said, if cheating is an immature move, then how do you grow to be more mature? You have to reflect on how you made that decision and grow in understanding your decision-making so you can make better decisions going forward. So the writing and the workbook stuff is about helping men come to terms with understanding themselves better so they can make better choices going forward.
So we've talked a lot about this topic over the hour. What do you think is the one most important thing you want a man to take away from reading this book?
Give your spouse the time and the space to grieve and be in pain and be angry with you for what you have done. Understand that could go on for a year. When you, after 3 months, are going to say, when are you going to get off my back? No, it isn't going to get better with flowers, moonlight, and candles and vacations. That what will make your relationship better is you're engaging in trustworthy behavior, a trustable behavior over time, so that she can once again begin to see you as a trustworthy person. Showing up on time, fully participating in family activities, not leaving her out of the loop when you're late or running, letting her know what's going on, keeping her informed, is helping her begin to learn to trust you again. And it's only when trust in the relationship is restored that couple's really going to start moving forward.
In the process of writing this book, was there anything that kind of surprised you? Was there anything that came up that was kind of like, oh, I didn't think of it that way before?
Actually, in writing Out of the Doghouse, a book for men who cheat, the most surprising thing to me so far has been that I expected a lot of pushback from men. Because I've been talking now about the book or to therapists, or I've been talking about this for a couple of months and in interviews like this. And I expect like a torrent of men to say, well, we get to do this and we should. And I've gotten silence.
Really?
From the men. In fact, I've actually had some men who are older men who maybe cheated 20 years ago read the book and say, wow, I wish I'd read this way back then. I might have not lost that relationship. I might have made better choices. So